You know, there's a lot of disadvantages to getting old. Your body doesn't work so good. You get lots of aches and pains. Um, I like to play sports, so you're not as competitive as you used to be. Luckily, I've delayed aging because of my life habits, my way of life, because of my day-to-day routines of eating healthy and trying to stay active, getting enough sleep. But I'll tell you, one of the advantages of getting old, if you take care of yourself, is being able to predict the future. Why is that a skill that old people have or can have? Not that we become clairvoyant, but because we've seen it before. We're able to pick different pieces of information, analyze it, make correlations to what might happen in the future if you do this, or if a society does that. So the older you get, the more capable you are of predicting the future. And so I've gotten pretty good at predicting the future. Sometimes I say, I see the future. And the problem for most Americans is I see the future and you won't like what I see. But in order to talk about you not liking my prognostication of the future, we have to go back in time and talk about what's happened in the past and how almost all of us have been brainwashed about what's happened. So let me give you a recap of what's happened in the past in my lifetime. The United States has always considered itself the indispensable nation. I do remember when we used to have a manufacturing base. Back then, I remember the elites, Wall Street, were busy convincing the population. They'd already bought and paid off the politicians, but they still had to convince the populace that moving factories outside of the country would be beneficial because one, we'd get cheaper products, but two, that low-skilled manufacturing job wasn't needed because we were going to be moving to higher tech service industry and higher tech manufacturing. Of course, this was a total lie. In actuality, what was happening was that the elites wanted to increase their profit margin at the cost of the poor. They really didn't care about the country. They only cared about their pocketbooks, which is unfortunate. I saw a lot of despair before I left the United States. It's only now become apparent to most Americans that the politicians and the elites don't care about them. You know, I used to think the United States was the best thing since sliced bread, and then started traveling around the world, and I saw that most of the things that they told me in the United States was just lies. People all around the world everywhere. People are all the same everywhere, you know. They like to have a nice job, they'd like to have vacations, like to have somebody who loves them, maybe start a family, live in a nice place. Everybody has the same needs and desires. I don't know how we could have let the politicians and the elites convince us that the people in Vietnam, the people in Iraq, the people in Iran, etc., etc., were any different than we were. So I think that we have as much culpability as the elites and the politicians in our own demise. I tried to convince everybody of what was happening, but it seemed like nobody listened. I just became an outcast. Before I left, I feel like I wasn't as friendly as I used to be. It seemed like I sabotaged many relationships before I left. I think it was because I just wanted to make sure that once I left there was no going back. I guess talking about my life will be left for another video. The future is very uncertain. I perceive that the world reserve currency is going to change here in the near term. Whenever you've had a change in the world reserve currency, generally you've had wars that have consumed a lot of the world. And I have a feeling that this crisis that we're going through now in some way is related to the economic situation of the world reserve currency being in transition. I wouldn't put it past the elites that are in some way trying to control the world to have some kind of pandemic, because it just seems very strange how the whole world was locked up. You know, and I've been playing volleyball here in Paraguay in South America for months now with a lot of people. Nobody uses a mask in close proximity after games, before games, while waiting for one game to end and playing against the winner of the game that's occurring. It seems like I talk to people and a lot of people think something strange is going on. I used to work in China, and I talk to people in China on a regular basis. And even though we're all still in lockdown 6 months ago, they were back to normal, as if nothing had happened. So I don't know what's going on in the world, but it just seems very strange how things are back to normal in China, and we're still in lockdown here, and the United States looks like, and Europe looks like they're having a second lockdown. Well, I don't know if I'd call it we're on lockdown here. We're just still using the precautions of washing our hands and wearing a mask. But I think most people are starting to realize it's not that dangerous. I mean, I still do see people being very careful. But there's a lot of people that, and me too, you know, when I go outside I don't wear a mask. I only wear a mask when I go into a building. That's because, you know, you can't go into a building without wearing a mask. Obviously, everybody has to wash their hands before entering any place. I wouldn't put it past the Davos crowd, the elites, that this somehow was programmed so that we could have a smoother transition to the next world order world reserve currency. Having left the United States and renouncing my citizenship, I feel I have the experience to help other Americans do the same. Renouncing my citizenship would turn out to be one of the best economic decisions I would ever make. Not to mention the benefits to my physical and psychological well-being. Today, I consider myself a free man. If you need help leaving the United States, renouncing your citizenship, acquiring a new citizenship, or just someone to talk to help you on this difficult journey, then contact me by email and we can set up consultations. You can also donate to my PayPal account. The information is in the low bar.